Okay, first for Around the Net is a rumor that I've heard. The possible main event for TNA's Bound for Glory could be Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett for the TNA World Title. Don't do it! Don't do it! Kurt, I love you. Jeff, I love you. Jeff, you were really good. You're a good wrestler, but I don't think that should be your world title match or main event for Bound for Glory. First off, unless Jeff comes back right after Hard Justice or at Hard Justice, there's not going to be enough of a build for Bound for Glory for this. If they really wanted to, they could keep with Kurt and Joe. I wouldn't care if you put Kurt and Joe in every match on the card and just change the stipulations every time. It's going to be a good match. It's going to be a great match if they pull it off. I just don't see it. I don't see... Jim Cornette one time said, talking with Bobby Heenan, he said you have to think of it in terms of names at the top of the marquee. When you see headlining the pay-per-view, The Undertaker versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, that's huge. You know, it's got the good ring to it. But if you're going to take the flagship pay-per-view and say Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett for the world title, no. Jeff hasn't been in the title hunt. He's been away. His build should be for something else, which is why I believe they should have a secondary heavyweight title in TNA. Because you could put it on guys like Jeff Jarrett. You could put it on guys like Lance Hoyt. If Killings was still there, you could put it on Ron Killings. You know, it would be a good title for those guys who are heavyweights and not in the X division, but for people who aren't in the world title hunt, like Rhino. You could put it on Rhino, and then when you have Rhino feuding with James Storm, you've got it for a title. And that means something, and there's a build. I mean, that feud already means something, but you understand that a title adds so much more to it. So I really think the secondary heavyweight title, not a world title, maybe a US, whatever they're going to call it, television, that would be a good one, would work. But I don't see Angle Jarrett as the match that's going to make me want to buy Bound for Glory. It's just not. Okay, the next one is an article on 411 Wrestling called You're an Idiot and Here's Why. They took an interesting stance in this article this week, talking about the great Khali. The guy that usually writes the negative side of the article decided to switch and write the positive side because he believes that Khali is going to make a good world champion. First off, I'd like to tell you something. When a guy that's usually playing the heel decides to play the face this time, guess what? In the internet, that's called trolling. He is a troll. That's all he's doing. He is goading people into doing what I'm doing, talking about his article, because obviously it's not good enough to get recognized on its own. He needs to create some controversy by saying that Khali is going to make a good world champion. Khali will never make a good world champion unless he gets some severe training from guys like Kane to tell him how to take the psychology of the big man's match and apply it to everybody. Because guess what? Batista versus Khali. If I ever see a Batista versus Khali match on my television, I will burn my television. I'm not ordering any pay-per-view with that match on the card. Ever. Ever. Unless there are some drastic changes. So, stop trolling. Just write better articles. Next one is a video on YouTube. I shouldn't even talk about it because that just puts it over. But it's called the TNA Remix. And this guy, who is obviously a big WWE mark, and that's all you are, you're a mark, and you read internet news websites and you think you're in the business. You're a mark. He takes these clips from Impact and decides to rewrite them all like it's a 80s sitcom or something, you know, something trying to be humorous, and then putting like at the end credits have all these possible scenarios of what TNA would try to do to increase their ratings, and everything is a 1.1 or a 1.0. Guess what? By the time you put those out, TNA is already doing over 1.1. They're doing 1.2s, which isn't much better, but it's over that. So right there, your video sucks. This week, is the week for TNA, I believe. I watched TNA last night. I liked it. I liked it a hell of a lot better than I liked Raw, I'll tell you that, because I don't even want to talk about Raw. Raw's terrible. The last one I want to talk about is Bill and Doug, TNA fans. They do WWE sucks, TNA rules, make the choice. Something like that. I like you guys. I share some of the same opinions you do. I am obviously not as big of a TNA mark as you, but we're on the same page as in I enjoy TNA a lot more than I'm enjoying WWE right now. And while I don't always agree with what Russo and Blackjack and Jarrett and Dixie are doing, I still enjoy the program. So I understand, and don't come out and say, oh, you're a TNA mark and try and put me down for it. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm just trying to say I really like the show. I like the wrestlers on it. I like them a lot better than I like most of the WWE guys they're pushing right now. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I'm just going to get into an argument with somebody, I'm sure. Okay, today on the disabled list, just want to mention the first person on the list. Ken Kennedy is apparently feeling better because he is not jobbing to super crazy in under 30 seconds anymore. Lashley just got injured by Mr. Kennedy, wink wink, which is really unfortunate because they're finally starting to turn around the booking for Lashley. Lashley was booked completely wrong for the year and a half that he's been on TV. They booked him with power moves. They tried to make him the Black Cena. I mean, yes, he's big, he's muscly, but you have to understand the guy was a wrestling champion for a reason. Because he can wrestle. If you take the mat game that he has, that they're starting to apply now, they just started to apply it before he got injured, within the past month or so, and give him the power moves with the mat wrestling, he's going to be really good. He can't talk, but that's what managers are for. Get a manager out there. Turn Estrada face and put him with Lashley. Get Kenny Bolin out there. I don't care who you put out there with him. Just put out a manager with him and let him wrestle. Jeff Hardy is the next injury, supposedly. Suspended for 30 days by WWE. TheHardyShow.com reports that he injured himself in that botch against Kennedy. It looked like a pretty tough bump to take. Obviously it was a blown spot, and I don't doubt that he's injured. Just knowing that his track record of either not alerting people or just generally rubbing people the wrong way when it comes to no-showing, I can understand why the WWE suspended him. I hope when he comes back in 30 days that they don't just drop him entirely, that they let him, that they give him the Intercontinental push that they were going to get him before. Sanjay Dutt is the next one on my list. Sanjay is wrestling injured, needs some work on his shoulder, and TNA says they are not going to help him. That is pretty shitty. There's nothing really more to say about that. Sanjay Dutt, they've put him in this gimmick that's okay, I guess. He never really had that much of a gimmick before, player from the Himalayas and all that. They need to get him more face time because he's a good wrestler. And I think if they get him out there and let him talk and let him get more comfortable with the promos on TV, that he's going to be just as good and be on just the same level as, like, Jay Lethal. Next injury, Conan. Conan, his surgery, I guess, was a success, but he's back in the hospital because he might be rejecting the kidney. Hopefully, the anti-rejection medication will work and the kidney's going to stick. I really hope the best for him because I've enjoyed him ever since he was doing Tequila Sunrises in WCW all the way up until, his last stint with LAX. It was really hard to see him, frail and in a wheelchair and a walker and everything else. I hope he gets better. And the last thing on the disabled list is WWE's ratings. Now, I understand that there might have been an error in Raw's ratings, so they might actually be higher than the reported 2.5, which, that's fine. I'm expecting it to be, if it's not a 2.5, it's going to be a 3.5, or it's going to be a 3.6, because that's what they've been getting lately because the program is just not that interesting anymore.